I'm Maya, 28 years old, and I remember stepping off the train in Chicago, a city that pulsed with ambition and endless possibilities. Fresh out of college, armed with a degree in digital marketing, I was convinced this was where my dreams would take flight. My parents, both educators, had instilled in me a fierce work ethic and the belief that with enough dedication, any barrier could be overcome. Chicago's skyline felt like a promise, a towering testament to what hard work could build, and I was eager to contribute. I envisioned myself making a significant impact, not just for a company, but for the broader community. The energy of the city was intoxicating, pulling me forward with an undeniable force toward my professional aspirations. After countless applications and nerve-wracking interviews, I landed a junior strategist position at Synergy Marketing Solutions, one of Chicago's most prestigious agencies. It was a dream come true, a place renowned for its innovative campaigns and high-profile clients. I felt a surge of pride and excitement, ready to prove my worth. The office was a sleek, modern space in a downtown skyscraper filled with bright, energetic young professionals. Everyone seemed driven, creative, and eager to collaborate, or so it appeared on the surface. I was thrilled to be part of such an environment, ready to absorb everything and climb the corporate ladder with enthusiasm. My initial weeks were a whirlwind of learning, absorbing the company culture, and contributing to smaller projects. I quickly adapted, my ideas were fresh, and my analytical skills were sharp. I received positive feedback from my immediate supervisor, which fueled my confidence and reinforced my belief that I was exactly where I was meant to be. I made an effort to connect with colleagues, joining after-work happy hours and team lunches. Most interactions were pleasant, but I occasionally noticed subtle shifts in conversations or a certain hesitation when I offered an opinion. It was nothing overt, just a fleeting sense of being slightly outside the inner circle, an observation I initially dismissed. There were moments when I felt a slight chill, a subtle distancing from some of my peers, especially during informal brainstorming sessions. Ideas I shared sometimes seemed to be overlooked, only to be echoed later by a different colleague and then praised. I told myself it was just part of navigating a new, competitive corporate landscape. I focused on my work, ensuring every report was meticulously prepared and every presentation was polished. My goal was to deliver undeniable results, believing that performance would speak louder than any unspoken biases. I was determined to earn my place through sheer talent and consistent effort, leaving no room for doubt. The agency prided itself on its diverse client portfolio, from tech startups to established retail giants. I was eager to sink my teeth into a major campaign, something that would truly challenge my abilities and allow me to showcase my strategic thinking. I knew I had the potential to excel, given the right opportunity. I spent evenings researching industry trends, honing my digital marketing skills, and visualizing my future success within Synergy. I saw myself rising through the ranks, leading major accounts, and becoming a respected voice in the Chicago marketing scene. My ambition was a burning fire, lighting my path forward. My supervisor, Mr. Davies, often praised my analytical insights, telling me I had a knack for understanding consumer behavior. His encouragement was a balm, reassuring me that my efforts were recognized, even if the path sometimes felt a little steeper than I anticipated. I clung to his words, using them as motivation. I was aware that as a young Black woman in a predominantly white corporate environment, I might face unique challenges. However, I had always believed in meritocracy, trusting that my skills and dedication would ultimately prevail over any preconceived notions. I was optimistic, perhaps even naive, about the reality I was about to face. The office buzz was constant, a symphony of keyboards clicking, phones ringing, and hushed conversations about upcoming pitches. I thrived in that energetic atmosphere, feeling a part of something significant, a cog in a large, successful machine. The city outside my window was a constant reminder of the grand scale of our work. I often stayed late, meticulously reviewing data and refining strategies, driven by a desire to exceed expectations. I wanted to be indispensable, to make my presence felt through the quality of my contributions. Every late night was an investment in my future, a step closer to achieving my professional aspirations. Little did I know, the very environment I had so eagerly embraced held a hidden current, a subtle undertow that would attempt to pull me back. The initial excitement was slowly giving way to a more nuanced understanding of the unspoken rules and invisible lines that existed within the corporate landscape. As the months passed, my initial optimism at Synergy Marketing Solutions began to wane, replaced by a growing unease. I noticed a pattern. I was consistently assigned to projects that were less visible, less impactful, despite my strong performance on previous tasks. It felt like I was perpetually stuck in the background, never quite reaching the spotlight. My ideas, when presented in team meetings, often seemed to land flat, only to be rephrased by a white male colleague minutes later and met with enthusiastic nods. It was a subtle but frustrating phenomenon, making me question if my voice was truly being heard, or if it was simply dismissed because of who it belonged to. I started observing how opportunities were distributed. Key client presentations, high-profile brainstorming sessions, and leadership roles on new initiatives consistently went to others. These colleagues, while competent, often had less experience or demonstrably weaker track records than my own. The pattern was becoming undeniable. There were microaggressions, too, small, almost imperceptible slights that chipped away at my confidence. Comments about my articulate speech, surprised reactions to my technical proficiency, or assumptions about my background that felt rooted in stereotypes. Each instance was a tiny cut, accumulating over time. I remember a senior manager once telling me, "You have a very unique perspective, Maya. We need to make sure it fits our clients' mainstream audience." The implication was clear. My perspective, presumably tied to my identity, was somehow niche or not broadly appealing, even though my insights were data-driven. I tried to brush it off, to convince myself it was all in my head, a product of my own insecurity in a competitive environment. But the evidence mounted with each passing week, a quiet, persistent hum of exclusion that became harder and harder to ignore. My enthusiasm for the job began to dim. The camaraderie I had initially hoped for felt elusive. While colleagues were polite, there was a distinct lack of genuine connection, especially with those in leadership positions. I felt like an outsider looking in, always on the periphery, never fully integrated into the firm's core social or professional fabric. I found myself working harder, staying later, trying to compensate for the invisible barriers I felt. I believed that if I just pushed harder, if my results were undeniable, then I would eventually break through. It was an exhausting cycle, fueled by a desperate hope for recognition that never seemed to arrive. Then came the announcement of the Phoenix Project, a groundbreaking campaign for a major tech client, poised to redefine their market presence. It was the kind of high-stakes, high-visibility opportunity one had been craving, a chance to truly make my market synergy. My heart pounded with anticipation. The entire agency was abuzz with talk of the Phoenix Project. Everyone wanted a piece of it, knowing it would be a career-defining endeavor. I immediately started preparing, brainstorming innovative strategies, and compiling relevant market research, eager to present my ideas and secure a significant role. I approached Mr. Davies, expressing my keen interest and outlining my qualifications, particularly my strong analytical background and creative problem-solving skills. He listened attentively, nodded, and assured me he would consider my enthusiasm when forming the core team. I left his office feeling cautiously optimistic. Over the next few days, the project team began to take shape. Names were announced, roles were assigned, and initial meetings were scheduled. I waited anxiously, checking my email constantly, hoping for an invitation, a confirmation of my inclusion in this pivotal initiative. The suspense was almost unbearable. My colleagues, one by one, received their assignments, their faces alight with excitement. I saw junior strategists, some with less experience than me, being tapped for key roles, their names appearing on the project roster. A knot of dread began to tighten in my stomach, a cold realization dawning on me. The final roster was circulated, and my name was conspicuously absent from the core Phoenix Project team. I was listed as a supporting resource, available for data pulls or minor research tasks, a role that felt like a polite dismissal, a clear signal that I was not considered central to their vision. The subtle shifts had culminated in a blatant sidelining, a clear message that my talent and potential were not valued in the same way as others. The initial sting of disappointment quickly morphed into a burning anger, a realization that my race was undeniably playing a role in my professional trajectory. The email confirming my supporting resource role on the Phoenix project felt like a punch to the gut. It wasn't just about being excluded, it was the blatant disregard for my expertise, my track record, and my undeniable passion for the work. The message was clear. My contributions were deemed secondary, almost an afterthought. I watched as the core team, predominantly white and male, gathered for their initial strategy sessions, their laughter echoing through the glass-walled conference room. My ideas, my carefully crafted research, were never even given a platform. It was as if my voice had been muted before I even had a chance to speak. The sting of exclusion was sharp, but it was the underlying reason that truly festered. I overheard snippets of conversations, veiled comments about client comfort, and team dynamics that felt loaded with unspoken meaning. The subtle biases I had sensed were now glaringly apparent, painted in the stark light of this major project. One afternoon, a senior director, seemingly trying to be kind, pulled me aside. "Maya," he began, "we just felt that for a project of this magnitude, we needed a team with a very specific, established rapport." His words felt hollow, a flimsy excuse for what I knew was a deeper, more insidious reason for my exclusion. I saw colleagues who were less experienced, less innovative, being given prominent roles simply because they fit a certain mold, a comfortable, familiar image. My unique perspective, once praised, was now perceived as a liability, something that might disrupt the established order or make clients uncomfortable. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. I was being sidelined not because of my competence, but because of my race. My blackness, which I carried with pride, was being used as an invisible barrier, preventing me from accessing the opportunities one had rightfully earned through hard work and talent. A deep sense of injustice washed over me. I had dedicated myself to this firm, poured my energy into every task, only to be met with a subtle yet devastating form of discrimination. It wasn't overt racism, no slurs or direct insults, but a systemic exclusion that was arguably more insidious because it was so hard to pinpoint. I felt a profound sense of isolation. How do you fight an invisible enemy? How do you challenge a bias that is never explicitly stated, but is woven into the very fabric of how opportunities are distributed? The frustration was immense, a heavy weight pressing down on my spirit. My once vibrant enthusiasm for synergy marketing solutions began to curdle into resentment. Every morning, walking into that gleaming office felt like a performance, a charade where I pretended to be content with my diminished role. The joy I once found in my work was slowly being eroded. I started to question everything: my career choices, my decision to move to Chicago, even my own worth. The insidious nature of discrimination is that it makes you doubt yourself, makes you wonder if perhaps you truly aren't good enough, despite all evidence to the contrary. It was a dangerous mental spiral. The Phoenix Project meetings became a painful reminder of what I was missing. I would see the team huddled, laughing, celebrating small victories, and I felt a growing bitterness. My contributions, when requested, were always administrative, never strategic, never truly leveraging my core strengths. I tried to push back, subtly at first, by offering unsolicited insights or asking pointed questions during all staff updates. My efforts were met with polite nods, sometimes even a patronizing smile, but never a change in my sidelined status. It was like speaking into a void. The emotional toll was immense. I found myself increasingly withdrawn, less engaged in team discussions, and more prone to moments of quiet despair. My passion for marketing, once a driving force, felt suffocated by the heavy blanket of corporate bias. I knew I couldn't continue like this. One evening, staring at my reflection in the office window, the city lights blurring behind me, I made a silent vow. I would not let this define me. I would not let their narrow perceptions dictate my future. A spark of defiance ignited within me, a quiet resolve to reclaim my narrative. The pain of being sidelined became the fuel for a new fire, a determination to build something where my talent would be seen, valued, and celebrated, regardless of my skin color. This was not the end. It was merely the beginning of a very different, and ultimately more empowering journey. The raw pain of being sidelined from the Phoenix Project quickly transformed into a fierce resolve. I refused to let synergy marketing solutions dictate my professional ceiling or diminish my self-worth. If they couldn't see my value, I would create a space where it was undeniable, a platform built entirely on my own terms. That night, after hours of restless pacing in my small Chicago apartment, a radical idea began to take root. I would start my own digital marketing venture. The thought was exhilarating and terrifying in equal measure. I had no capital, no dedicated office, and a full-time job that demanded my presence. But the seed of rebellion had been planted, watered by frustration, and fueled by a burning desire for autonomy. I began to research, devouring every article and online course on entrepreneurship, business registration, and freelance marketing. My evenings and weekends became a secret academy for my burgeoning dream. I decided to call my nascent venture Ascend Digital. The name reflected my aspiration to rise above limitations, to help businesses elevate their presence, and to ascend to new heights of success. It was a powerful mantra, a constant reminder of my purpose and my defiance. My first challenge was secrecy. I couldn't risk Synergy finding out about my freelance work. It would be a clear conflict of interest and could jeopardize my current employment. Every step I took was clandestine, from setting up a separate bank account to building a discreet website in incognito mode. My small apartment living room became my makeshift office, often late at night after a draining day at Synergy. I'd clear away dinner plates, set up my laptop, and immerse myself in building my portfolio and crafting my services. The quiet hum of the city outside was my only companion. Finding initial clients was daunting. I started by reaching out to small businesses in my neighborhood, offering pro bono or low-cost services to build my portfolio and gather testimonials. I leveraged my network, reaching out to former classmates and acquaintances, explaining my new venture with cautious optimism. My first client was a local independent bookstore struggling to compete with online giants. I offered to revamp their social media presence and implement a targeted email marketing campaign. It was a small project, but the success I achieved for them, even on a limited budget, was incredibly rewarding. Each small victory, each positive testimonial, was a powerful affirmation that my skills were valuable, that my perspective was indeed an asset. It was a stark contrast to the dismissive environment at Synergy, a breath of fresh air that invigorated my spirit and solidified my resolve. Balancing my full-time job with Ascend Digital was exhausting. I often worked until the early hours of the morning, fueled by coffee and an unwavering determination. Sleep became a luxury, but the thought of building something truly my own kept me going, pushing past the fatigue. There were moments of doubt, of course. The financial insecurity of freelancing, the fear of failure, the sheer magnitude of the task ahead. But every time I felt overwhelmed, I remembered the sting of being sidelined, and that memory reignited my resolve. I was fighting for my professional liberation. I learned quickly, adapting my strategies, refining my pitches, and becoming more efficient with my time. Every client interaction, every campaign, was a lesson in entrepreneurship, teaching me far more than any corporate training ever could. I was growing, evolving, becoming the strategist I was always meant to be. My confidence, which had been chipped away at Synergy, slowly began to rebuild itself through Ascend Digital. I was making independent decisions, seeing direct results from my efforts, and receiving genuine appreciation from my clients. It was a profound and deeply satisfying experience. The Phoenix Project at Synergy continued, a constant, painful reminder of the opportunities denied to me. But now it served a different purpose. It was a motivation, a silent challenge that pushed me to work even harder on my own venture, to prove them wrong on a much grander scale. This secret rebellion, born out of frustration, was slowly but surely transforming me. I was no longer just an employee. I was an entrepreneur, a founder, a visionary. The seed had germinated, and Ascend Digital was beginning to take root, promising a future where my talent would truly ascend. As months turned into a year, Ascend Digital began to gain significant momentum, evolving from a clandestine side hustle into a legitimate, thriving business. My initial low-cost projects had yielded impressive results, leading to a steady stream of referrals from satisfied clients. Word of mouth became my most powerful marketing tool. I expanded my services, moving beyond social media management to offer comprehensive digital marketing strategies, including SEO, content creation, and targeted ad campaigns. My expertise deepened with each new challenge, and my portfolio grew more robust, showcasing a diverse range of successful projects. The financial independence I was slowly building was intoxicating. Every dollar earned through Ascend Digital felt like a small victory, a tangible symbol of my autonomy. I meticulously saved and reinvested profits back into the business, purchasing essential software and tools to enhance my capabilities. My apartment, once just a living space, now truly functioned as a dynamic command center. I had a dedicated workspace, complete with multiple monitors and a whiteboard covered in strategy maps. The lines between personal and professional blurred, but it was a blur I embraced, fueled by passion. I found invaluable support in unexpected places. A former college professor, impressed by my initiative, became an informal mentor, offering advice on scaling a business and navigating client relationships. Her guidance was a lifeline, helping me avoid common pitfalls and strategize for growth. I also connected with a vibrant community of Chicago-based freelance professionals through online forums and local meetups. These connections provided a sense of camaraderie I had lacked at Synergy, a space where I could share challenges and celebrate successes with like-minded individuals who understood my journey. One significant breakthrough came when I secured a contract with a small but rapidly expanding organic food delivery service. Their founder, a visionary entrepreneur, gave me full creative control, trusting my strategic insights completely. The campaign I designed for them went viral within the Chicago market. The success of that campaign, which led to a significant increase in their subscriber base, garnered attention within local business circles. My name, or rather, Ascend Digital, began to be whispered with respect, a testament to the tangible results I consistently delivered for my clients. I was working harder than ever, often pulling all-nighters, but the exhaustion was different. It was the fatigue of creation, of building something meaningful, rather than the draining weariness of fighting against invisible barriers. Every hour I invested felt purposeful, a step towards my true calling. At Synergy, I maintained my facade, diligently performing my supporting resource duties on the Phoenix project, which was still in its early stages. The irony was palpable. I was contributing to a major firm's success while secretly building an empire that was already outperforming their expectations. My increased confidence and sharpened skills were noticeable even to my colleagues at Synergy. They attributed it to finally settling in, or finding my stride, completely oblivious to the real source of my newfound vigor. Their misperception only fueled my quiet amusement and determination. I started declining social invitations from Synergy colleagues, citing freelance commitments as an excuse. It was partially true. My evenings were packed with client calls and strategic planning for Ascend Digital. My world was expanding rapidly beyond the confines of my corporate job. The financial security I was building allowed me to dream bigger, to envision a future where I was not only professionally independent, but also had the resources to give back to my community. My success wasn't just about personal gain, it was about creating opportunities for others. I began to strategically invest a portion of my profits, diversifying my portfolio under the guidance of my mentor. Watching my investments grow alongside my business was incredibly empowering, a testament to the power of smart financial planning and calculated risks. Ascend Digital was no longer just a seed of rebellion. It was a flourishing tree, its roots firmly planted, its branches reaching for the sky. The momentum was undeniable, carrying me forward towards a future that was entirely my own making, a future where my talent would finally make headlines. The turning point for Ascend Digital arrived with a project that transcended local success and garnered national attention. I had secured a contract with a prominent nonprofit organization focused on youth empowerment in underserved communities across the Midwest. Their mission resonated deeply with me, and I poured my heart into the campaign. My strategy focused on authentic storytelling and leveraging micro-influencers within the communities they served. The digital campaign I designed went viral, generating unprecedented engagement and a surge in donations that far exceeded the nonprofit's wildest expectations. It was a powerful demonstration of purpose-driven marketing. The success story of this campaign was picked up by major industry publications and even featured in a segment on a national news channel. While I remained largely anonymous, the name, Ascend Digital, was prominently credited for the innovative strategy and remarkable results. The buzz was undeniable. Back at Synergy Marketing Solutions, The Phoenix project was still plodding along, facing internal delays and client frustrations. I heard whispers in the hallways about their struggles, a stark contrast to the growing buzz surrounding my own independent venture. The irony was almost unbearable. One morning, during a team meeting at Synergy, Mr. Davies brought up the viral nonprofit campaign. "Has anyone seen the work Ascend Digital did?" he asked, a hint of admiration in his voice. "Their approach is incredibly fresh, very effective. We should study their methods." My heart pounded in my chest. I kept my expression neutral, my gaze fixed on the presentation screen, a quiet storm brewing within me. It was surreal to hear my own work, my secret triumph, being discussed and praised by the very people who had sidelined me. Later that week, a senior partner at Synergy circulated an internal memo about Ascend Digital, suggesting that the firm explore potential partnerships or even acquisition. They were clearly impressed, completely unaware that the company they admired was being run by one of their own, supporting resources. The tension of maintaining my double life became almost unbearable. I was living a professional paradox, an overlooked employee by day, a celebrated entrepreneur by night. The moment of truth was rapidly approaching, and I knew I couldn't keep my identity a secret for much longer. A major industry conference was scheduled in Chicago, and I was invited to speak on a panel about digital marketing trends, specifically highlighting the nonprofit campaign. It was an incredible honor, but it meant stepping fully into the public eye as the founder of Ascend Digital. I knew this public appearance would inevitably lead to my identity being revealed to Synergy. The thought filled me with a mixture of apprehension and exhilarating anticipation. This wasn't just about professional recognition, it was about vindication, a powerful statement against the bias I had faced. I carefully prepared my presentation, not just on marketing strategies, but on the power of authentic connection and the importance of diverse perspectives. I wanted my message to resonate, to subtly challenge the very mindset that had tried to hold me back. The day of the conference arrived. As I walked onto the stage, the spotlight felt warm and empowering. I saw familiar faces from the Chicago marketing scene in the audience, and a few surprised expressions from Synergy employees who were also attending. Their eyes widened as I was introduced. "And now, please welcome Maya Johnson, founder and CEO of Ascend Digital." The announcer's voice boomed, and a wave of murmurs rippled through the room. I took a deep breath, a quiet smile playing on my lips. The secret was out. My presentation was met with a standing ovation. Afterward, a crowd gathered around me, eager to connect, to learn more about Ascend Digital. Among them were several Synergy colleagues, their faces a mixture of shock, confusion, and dawning realization. The Phoenix project, which had once been the symbol of my professional marginalization, now seemed utterly insignificant compared to the soaring success of Ascend Digital. The unveiling was complete, and the stage was set for the reckoning. The aftermath of the conference was swift and intense. My phone buzzed incessantly with calls and messages, many from Synergy colleagues and even senior leadership. The quiet murmurs of Ascend Digital within the firm had erupted into a full-blown revelation. Their overlooked junior strategist was a rising industry star. The following morning, Mr. Davies called me into his office, his usual composed demeanor replaced by a strained politeness. "Maya," he began, "we had no idea. Your work with Ascend Digital is truly impressive. We're all quite surprised, in the best way, of course." His words felt hollow, laced with an unspoken regret. He then launched into a carefully worded speech about Synergy's commitment to nurturing talent and the miscommunication that might have led to my limited role on the Phoenix project. It was a transparent attempt to save face, to rewrite history, and to perhaps lure me back into their fold. "We'd like to offer you a senior leadership position," he proposed, his voice eager. "A significant raise, a place on the Phoenix project's core team, even a partnership track. We believe your vision aligns perfectly with Synergy's future." The offer was tempting on paper, a stark contrast to their previous treatment. I listened calmly, allowing him to finish, a quiet sense of vindication settling over me. This was the moment I had envisioned, the validation I had unknowingly craved. But the offer, no matter how lucrative, felt tainted by the memory of their past dismissals. "Mr. Davies," I replied, my voice steady and composed, "I appreciate the offer, and I acknowledge your surprise. However, the opportunities one was denied here forced me to create my own. And in doing so, I found a path that truly values my contributions. He tried to argue, to persuade, to emphasize the resources and stability Synergy could offer. He even hinted at the challenges of running an independent business, subtly attempting to undermine my confidence, a tactic I was now well-versed in recognizing. With all due respect, I interjected, the stability I sought was not just financial, but professional and personal. I needed an environment where my talent was recognized without question, where my race wasn't an unspoken barrier to opportunity. His face flushed slightly, a flicker of discomfort crossing his features. He knew exactly what I was referring to, even if he wouldn't admit it aloud. The unspoken truth of their bias hung heavy in the air between us, undeniable and exposed. I explained that Ascend Digital was not just a business, it was a testament to resilience, a platform where creativity and merit truly thrived. I had built it from the ground up, brick by brick, fueled by the very frustration they had inadvertently created. I've already submitted my resignation, I informed him, handing him a formal letter. My last day will be at the end of the month. I wish Synergy all the best with the Phoenix project. His jaw dropped, clearly not expecting such a definitive rejection. He made one last attempt, emphasizing the family aspect of Synergy, the long-term relationships. But I knew better. A family doesn't sideline its members, doesn't diminish their worth, and doesn't only recognize their value when they've built an empire elsewhere. Walking out of that office, I felt a profound sense of liberation. It wasn't about anger or revenge. It was about self-respect and reclaiming my narrative. The reckoning was complete, and I had emerged not just unscathed, but stronger, more purposeful. The news of my departure and the success of Ascend Digital spread rapidly through the Chicago marketing scene. It was a quiet ripple that turned into a wave, a story of triumph against adversity that resonated deeply with many. My journey was now public, and it was just beginning. My departure from Synergy Marketing Solutions marked the true beginning of Ascend Digital's public ascent. With no more need for secrecy, I poured all my energy and resources into scaling my company. The success of the nonprofit campaign had opened doors, and clients were now actively seeking us out. I moved Ascend Digital from my apartment living room to a vibrant office space in Chicago's West Loop, a hub for creative agencies. I hired a small team of talented, diverse professionals who shared my vision for ethical, impactful marketing. Our company culture was built on merit, respect, and genuine collaboration. Within a year, Ascend Digital had grown exponentially, securing major contracts with national brands and expanding our services to include comprehensive brand strategy and data analytics. We were no longer just a digital marketing firm. We were a full-service agency known for our innovative solutions and authentic approach. I often reflected on the journey, the pain of being sidelined, and the resilience it had ignited within me. That period of discrimination, though difficult, had been the catalyst for my greatest professional achievement. It had forced me to bet on myself, to trust my instincts, and to forge my own path. My story began to gain traction beyond the industry. I was invited to speak at universities, women's leadership conferences, and diversity summits, sharing my experience of overcoming bias and building a successful enterprise. My message resonated deeply. Your worth is not defined by someone else's inability to see it. I established the Ascend Foundation, a nonprofit arm of my company dedicated to providing mentorship and resources for aspiring Black entrepreneurs and marketers. It was my way of ensuring that others, especially those from marginalized communities, would have the support and opportunities one had to fight so hard for. The headlines that once celebrated Ascend Digital's campaigns now often featured my personal story, highlighting the journey from being sidelined to making a significant impact. It was humbling and empowering to know that my experience could inspire others to pursue their dreams despite adversity. I remained connected with my mentors and allies, those who had believed in me when others didn't. Their unwavering support was a constant reminder of the power of community and genuine connection in a world that can often feel isolating. They were my true champions. Life in Chicago felt different now. The city that had once felt challenging and subtly unwelcoming in certain professional spaces now felt like a canvas for my ambitions. I was no longer striving to fit into someone else's mold. I was creating my own, vibrant and inclusive. The memory of the Phoenix Project at Synergy occasionally surfaced, but it no longer held any power over me. I heard through the grapevine that the project had eventually launched, but without the groundbreaking impact they had hoped for. Their loss was my liberation. I learned that Synergy had undergone significant internal changes, prompted by a closer look at their diversity and inclusion practices. While I took no direct pleasure in their struggles, it was a quiet acknowledgement that the issues I faced were not unique to me, and that change was slowly but surely coming. My personal life also flourished. I found joy in new friendships, pursuing hobbies, and embracing a balanced lifestyle that prioritized well-being alongside professional success. The relentless pursuit of validation had been replaced by a profound sense of peace and purpose. Ascend Digital continued to grow, becoming a beacon of innovation and integrity in the marketing world. We were not just selling products, we were telling stories, building connections, and advocating for a more equitable and representative industry. My journey was a testament to the fact that sometimes rejection is redirection. Being sidelined was not the end of my career, it was the unexpected beginning of my true calling, a path that led to far greater success and fulfillment than I could have ever imagined. If you're watching this and feeling overlooked, undervalued, or discriminated against, remember Maya's story. Your talent is undeniable. Your voice deserves to be heard. And sometimes, the greatest triumph comes from building your own table when they won't give you a seat.